What's up, everybody? Today we're going to be building an ARC Trooper. Let's get started. What's up, everybody? This is Christopher, otherwise known as General Speer, and welcome back to another episode here on General Speer Creates. Today we're going to be embarking on a very special series, and that is going to be a scratch build of my very own custom ARC Trooper. What does this entail? Well, today we're going to be talking about that, going over the concept as well as the series moving forward. Now, behind me, this is my armor of ARC Trooper Havoc. This is my own armor for the 501st. It is currently going through the approval process. Hope that goes well. But this is basically just a point of reference of something that we're going to be hoping to accomplish by the end of the series. And today we're going to be going over not only the concept, as I mentioned before, but also what we're going to build versus what we're not going to build. Scratch builds often mean that they take about, pretty good majority of the entirety of the project, regardless of what you have going on. In the Obi-Wan Kenobi Clone Trooper series that we did before this series, that build went off of a kit build, meaning that it was part of a kit that you were able to purchase from a vendor. Specifically for that, it was Kevin Weir from over at Imperial Surplus. So that's a really good sort of system or setup, basically, that you can get for your armor. In this case, we're going to actually be making our armor from scratch, meaning that I have patterns that I've already been in the painstaking process of making, and we're also going to be using those patterns to build our own armor. First off, I want to show you the concept. So there are going to be photos that are going to flash before you on the screen. We're going to talk about them. We're going to see what we have before us, and then I'll tell you what we're going to do as far as what we're going to build versus what we're not going to build. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, this is the concept of what we have going on here. Ignore the materials list for right now. I'm just going to go about that later on in the video. But let's focus on the figure of this character first. This is Commander Storm, and this is a character that I've been in the process of kind of developing over the last several months. He is going to be essentially a siege ARC Trooper, or at least somebody who specializes in siege tactics. That is kind of the whole story. And he has a combined number of accessories from multiple different characters from both the Clone Wars TV show, as well as some accessories that are found more so on some of the realistic style of Clone Troopers. We have going on the ARC Trooper style helmet, not with a rangefinder specifically as we've seen before, but actually a set of macro binoculars. Famously, clones such as Lieutenant Fire and Commander Bly have worn these macro binoculars, and I do intend to have some sort of pivot point that will allow for me to raise and lower the macro binoculars in place. Next, as we move down the helmet itself, we see a Commander-style Polystyrene or Preef, which is also, it's been seen in the Clone Wars itself, early seasons specifically. Lieutenant Fire, Commander Bly, even Captain Rex uses this Commander-style Preef for a time. For the most part, the armor itself is a Phase 1 animated style makeup, and it's going to be fairly interesting to see what we do with all of that. The rocket wrist, or the wrist rocket on the left forearm for the arm guards itself is something I have yet to play around with, and I don't know if I'm going to include that or not, but I have it in there as a concept. But I will include a comm pad that is going to be additional to the arm guard itself. Also on the arm guard, as well as the chest plate, there are a series of straps along with the ammo pouches that I will later talk about in the video. These ammo pouches are seen more so in the realistic styles of armor versus the animated setup. And I got these pouches, and they are going to be part of the makeup there. I do not have the Clone Wars style ARC Trooper chest plate involved, mainly because I didn't find that to be necessary to the design. However, if we do move down to the bottom of the legs, specifically directing your eyes to the shins and to the boots, I do have drawn in there the animated style ARC Trooper shins as well as the boot toppers, which we will fabricate. Additionally speaking, we also have the comma. Now, commas we've seen with a lot of different commanders, so it's pretty self-explanatory as to what this is. We're going to be making this out of duck cloth and other materials. I don't have it drawn in here, but we're also going to have a Republic insignia design on either side of the comma, which is going to be pretty cool. We also have three different sets of holsters. We have the two sets of holsters on the left and right side for the DC-17 pistols. We also have a holster that's going to be completely customized to fit the DC-15S medium blaster, which is going to be pretty cool. So I'm fairly excited for that. As far as weapons go, I can direct you to the right of the Clone Trooper itself towards the weapons list. Obviously on top we have, starting with the profile of the DC-15A long rifle. We also, of course, down below have the DC-15S rifle, the DC-17 pistols, and then below that we have a relatively not very common weapon, which is going to be the RPS-6 rocket launcher. I will discuss this later in the video, but this will be the only weapon that we actually fabricate ourselves, and I'm still in the process of figuring out how we're exactly going to do that, but it should be rather interesting. Anyways, guys, that's pretty much the concept for this video. I do have a variety of different colors that I'm playing around with, a lot of blacks, grays, and of course predominantly white, but it should be rather exciting. So this is pretty much the concept, and let's get back to the video. Okay, so now that we have the concept, now that we have who Commander Storm is actually about, now let's talk about logistics as far as what we're going to build versus not build. The first thing that we're going to talk about is what we're not going to build, and that includes some of the accessories, some of the weapons, as well as some of the armor pieces itself. The armor pieces are pretty self-explanatory in terms of what we're not going to build. We're not going to build the helmet here. I have a helmet that is going to be purchased fairly soon from Dave's Armory, which there's going to be a link in the description below for his Facebook page, and he's a fantastic worker with regards to helmets. He does several different kinds of helmets. He does ARC Troopers, he does Clone Troopers, he does even Darth Vader, which is pretty cool. But we're going to get a raw cast, and that will be for probably the next episode in terms of what we start on in terms of the helmet. So that's going to be fairly exciting. The second thing that we're not going to build armor-wise are the shoes. Now, in the Obi-Wan Kenobi Clone Trooper series, I called this company Crowprops. That is actually incorrect. They are not a bovine name. They are, in fact, a bird name in that they are Crowprops. There is a link in the description below to their website in which you can order the shoes as well as a bunch of other sci-fi related boots. Predominantly Star Wars, but there are others as well. The next thing that we're going to cover in this build are the accessories, and specifically we're going to start with these guys. These are ammo pouches. You can find these ones specifically from Sanotized Creations. They do quite a few things as far as different accessories as well as certain weapons that you're able to get for purchase. This set of ammo pouches, it was a set of 5 ammo pouches, one for a couple for the chest as well as ones for the armband. That ran me about $40, not including shipping, so fairly inexpensive, all things considering. The accessories themselves are either vacuum formed or they are molded from various resins or plastics, sometimes even rubber, so it depends on what you're getting. And they do a fairly good job, so definitely check them out. Alright, so the next thing that we're not going to build are weapons, and the first weapon that we're going to show off here is this bad boy. Now, I can't get it all in the same shot, but it is fairly long. This is the DC-15A long rifle, and this thing is pretty lengthy. It does not come with any electronic components, and it is found over by a vendor by the name of Charles Bowman Jr., who is affectionately throughout the 501st as well as the Clone Trooper detachment known as Woodchuck. Woodchuck has been making prop weapons since about 2005 or thereabouts, and he's fairly flipping good at it. It's pretty much wood and PVC materials, and it is fairly good quality craftsmanship. And specifically, this is the animated variant of the weapon. Now, if you're confused by the term animated versus, say, realistic, I do have a video that is on my channel out a couple days ago, or hopefully before this, explaining the differences between the realistic and animated clone armors, especially for if you want to build your own armor for the 501st. It's definitely helpful to know those differences, and it's important to know those differences, and I have a full video on what those differences are and what you need to consider. The next piece of what we're not going to build as far as props go, ladies and gentlemen, is in fact these guys. These are the DC-17 pistols, most famously wielded by Captain Rex in the Clone Wars, and again, these are the animated variant. These are made, of course, by Woodchuck. They are full wood with a little bit of PVC on the end, and as you notice, these are already painted up just like the rifle, and these also have an additional bonus. They light up, which is pretty darn cool. They don't have sound. There is, in fact, a very good prop maker on YouTube known as Patchbot. I'll link him down in the description below. I think I might be saying the name wrong, but he's a fantastic prop maker, as well as he's got a video out there for making and putting in sound and light for his blasters, which is pretty darn cool. And it uses the Woodchuck design, which is pretty awesome. So definitely check that out. I'll have that down in the description below. The last prop that we're not going to build is, in fact, this guy. This is the DC-15S Medium Blaster, and this is the fourth weapon that we will be carrying on our arsenal. And as you'll notice, it is not painted. It is in its raw form, as it's known in the prop industry. And it's made out of, of course, wood and PVC, the same style as Woodchuck. This comes from him, and it's the animated style blaster, and it also has light, which is really, really cool. This is the fourth weapon and the final weapon that we are not going to build, but I will show you the paint job and the painting process for this, because there is a specific way that you need to paint these guys in order to have it look not only correct, but also make sure that, like if it's got batteries, to make sure that we don't paint in surfaces that we're not supposed to. So that is something to note. So there will be a video dedicated towards that at some point, as well as the weathering process after the paint job. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we come to the part of the video where we talk about the remainder of the build, of what we are going to build. It includes the remainder of the armor, the Phase 1 armor from the tip to toe, excluding the helmets. And then we also have the weapon, the remaining weapon, the RPS-6 rocket launcher that we are going to dedicate a video towards. We're also going to be building some of the various accessories, including the Polystyrene, some of various ammo pouches, the belt, and the detonator, and a few other accessories to boot. We're also going to be building the comma as well that will wrap around the lower section or the lower half of our clone trooper when it's done. When this armor is complete, it's going to be a pretty badass cosplay, but how are we going to get there? Well, we're going to get there by several means of materials, and this is the materials list as follows. The majority of this costume is going to be made out of EVA foam, or floor mat foam for gyms, basically. This stuff has been used by cosplayers aplenty for over the last decade, basically, if not more. For structural support on the inside of the foam, we're going to also be using corset boning. Now, as of this point, I have yet to decide whether I'm going to be using regular corset boning or steel corset boning. The steel corset boning is basically just like the regular corset boning, but it's made out of steel, so it's a little bit more rigid, but it is a little bit more expensive, so I have to determine which I'm going to use for that. But that will be used pretty much for the rigidity of the overall costume, as well as maintaining the shape of the costume itself. The next material that we're going to be using is polystyrene material, or just simply modeler's plastic. We're going to be using specifically 16th inch and 8th inch plastic, and you can pick this up at a lot of different hardware stores or hobby stores. I got mine over at Tap Plastics, and you can find this pretty much anywhere. You're going to be needing a pretty sizable amount, and I generally like to just get extra for extra products, but we're going to be needing some 8th inch plastic specifically for the holsters, and then the 16th inch plastic is going to be filling in any gaps and whatnot, as well as providing extra rigidity to the armor itself. Next, you're going to be needing a series of duck cloth, and I've got myself some light gray and some black duck cloth material. This stuff is going to be used for the comma itself that wraps around the lower section of the armor, and as you saw in the concept, I got a pretty cool Republic insignia logo that we're going to be attaching along with it. The light gray material for the comma, however, is going to be dyed, at least in what I envision. So you are going to need to pick up some dye. I will be showing you what that dye is in the dyeing video that will come out later in the series. So don't worry, I'll go over those materials. So that's going to be part of the costume itself. The last material that we're going to be discussing here before the videos end, ladies and gentlemen, is leather and pleather. Specifically, we're going to be using those materials for various straps, as well as the Commander's Polystyrene that is so much featured in the Commanders from the Clone Wars, famously worn in Captain Rex, or worn by Captain Rex in the first several seasons of the Clone Wars, as well as Lieutenant Fire, Commander Bly, and a bunch of others. This Polystyrene is going to be interesting to assemble because I have never assembled one before. I don't know if it's going to be 501st accurate, but I am going to be doing my best attempt. The base layer is going to consist of some leather, probably close to 5 to 6 ounce, maybe even 6 to 7, depending on how it goes. We'll discuss that in the video when it comes. We're also going to be needing some smaller thicknesses of foam, as well as some pleather to wrap around the foam for the various pads on top. With the exception of a few other materials and accessories that I'll be talking about throughout the individual videos, that pretty much does it for this particular concept. I'm super excited to get started on this process. It's been about 3 or 4 months worth of planning, and the very last thing I want to note is that I will be providing patterns for you all, such that if you want to follow along, you're more than able to. Thank you all for watching, everybody, and I hope you all continue to Hulk smash that like button. Comment in the comment section below. If you're new, thank you so much for watching and stopping by, and feel free to of course hit that subscribe and bell icon such that you can get all the updates on the channel. And for everybody, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching, and may the Force be with you always.